Charlie, if you could go back 5 years, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, I would probably tell myself to relax about getting my passport renewed. There's no urgency with that. That's going to expire in 2021. So just don't freak out about that. Potentially double down on flood insurance. I
Yes.
think, well, 5 years ago, I
Oh,
didn't have a home, but I would have said to myself, hey, if you buy a home in the Northern Rivers, just make sure you get flood insurance and also maybe stockpile sandbags because that's been the bane of my existence the last couple of weeks is can't find a Hessian sandbag anywhere
no.
in the Northern Rivers. You've got to order them from Victoria.
So did you get flooded, your house?
A little bit. I mean, look, not compared to like genuine flooding, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had a fairly stressful week last week where Gemma was away, so I was with solo with the kid, and at the time we didn't know that there was like another bout of flooding coming, and so I agreed to dog sit as well. So Gem was away. I had the baby on my own, and dog sitting a dog I'd never met before because I thought it'd be good for Iona to get to know this dog. And then that storm hit, and Iona woke up with a fever, and she started chucking up everywhere. And this dog started barking like crazy because there's lightning and rain on the roof and
Oh
stuff. And
my
then I'm like,
God.
shit, I should go downstairs and check, even though I didn't want to. And I go down, and there's like ankle deep water in the basement
Oh, that's where you
area
film that's where you do your
where
podcasts.
I do my not in the studio, thank God. And that's why
Oh,
I'm able to do this today. But in that living area,
yeah.
water was just sort of creeping in because it's sort of built into the side of a hill. So I had to navigate a sick child, dog that wouldn't shut the fuck up, and
Oh,
and then water
mate.
coming. Thank God for iPads. That's maybe something else I'd say to the five. Invest in an iPad and just load it up with Bluey because you're going to need it when you become a dad.
That's right. And you've flooded in. What?
Yeah,
So yeah, it was relentless that rain that night. I thought we got
yeah.
struck by lightning because the whole house shook with one lightning strike.
Oh yeah, I
And
think I know the one you're talking about. It was like a bomb going off.
yeah,
Like the walls are shaking. Yeah,
that's right. And it was like you felt so small and vulnerable.
yeah,
Um
yeah.
so you were doing home and away presumably 5 years ago.
It
Um
just finished. I
I
think I
just
just come.
finished.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
was
would you
in LA.
Oh, okay. So what advice would you give yourself like making that transition from acting in a soap to back to civilian life?
Well, it's interesting actually. With the benefit of hindsight, I would have probably said to myself, "Hey, don't feel like you need to uproot your entire life to America. Like, there's going to be a shift in attitude in the next 5 years where people tend to be able to stay and live where they want and work where they want, because that to me seems to be the progression. Is I've noticed a lot more Australian creatives like yourself coming back to Australia
Mm,
and working, and then if they get a project up, then they move back. It's sort of work
mm,
dependent. I think 5 years ago I was still sort of under the assumption that, well, and Jim and I have been, it was an ongoing discussion about when do we move to LA, like how do we make the move, when do we
mm,
move. But our attitude around that has shifted where it's like, well, we can probably, we can work more easily here. We have bigger profiles. It's easier
mm,
to secure work. But B, I just like living in Australia, despite the floods and
mm.
the lightning
Yeah, yeah.
strikes and everything. I do like it here, and I do like the part of the world we live in. But I think, yeah, I was sort of coming out of that home and away experience feeling like, oh, I've got to go over and just, do my
Mm,
time like everyone else. But I
mm.
feel much more empowered, much more relaxed about that, much more empowered to create work here. That if work comes stateside, then great. But I'm much more interested in self-generating at the moment,
Yes.
rather than sort of joining the queue over there.
Oh, mate, we all went over there. It was one of those things. It was rites of
Rites of
passage.
passage, yeah.
Yeah. And if you weren't going over there or you hadn't been over there, you felt a bit like, am I doing enough for my career? And,
Yeah.
now it kind of it seems almost absurd that we would uproot our lifestyle, our lives
Well,
and go
I
over
call
there.
it the Hemsworth phenomenon. I think
Mm,
Hemsworth was the first guy who was like, you know what? I'm a big enough star now that I can just move back home and you can bring the
yes.
work to me. I
Yeah,
think
that's right.
it was kind of like made the decision. Then every other actor who wasn't nearly on the same level as him was like, oh, I kind of like that idea as well. I miss my family and
that's
friends. I'd like to go back home.
that's right.
And all the meetings now happen via Zoom. anyway. Like,
Yeah,
I
or
don't
pitching.
know.
Well, most pitching does as well.
When was the last time you had a face-to-face meeting with anyone, be
Oh,
it as a performer or a writer or a producer? Like, everything is done online now.
yeah, yeah. As an actor, you obviously you're just doing self tapes, and now as a writer, you'd fly over to have 3 or 4 meetings to pitch a show, whereas
Right.
now you do it in the morning on Zoom, and you save yourself 2.5 grand.
Makes sense.
So good. It's so
Yeah,
good. I
it's
mean,
so
or
great.
more, like, three days in a hotel or
Plus
five
a
days in a
hotel.
hotel. Yeah. Or in
Yeah,
our case, moving over and paying for a green card, which
that's right.
which you
Well, that's
guys
the
did
other
too, didn't
thing.
you?
Yeah, I had to get a. Well, I didn't get a green card. I got an O1, but that has lapsed. My passport and my visa lapsed at about the same time. At the beginning of last year, and I was like, it's fine. It's fine. I
You'll
can't
get
see
onto it.
any urgency.
No, mate. Well, that's good. So you do you feel more settled than you did 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's I haven't actually thought about it until you asked the question, but yeah, I mean, it feels like so much has happened in that time, not just globally, but
Yeah.
personally, I'm a dad now,
Yeah.
and I think career options have taken a bit of a turn as well, and so I feel much happier and more settled. I also think too that acting, especially when you get used to relying on acting income, or that's sort of your main focus, it can be I don't want to say disempowering, but it's such a volatile, fraught career, that can start and end in an instant, and is dependent on so many other factors that, once you're not sort of focused on that entirely, like a whole world of kind of things open up to you, which
Yeah.
not only give you much more security personally, but a lot of satisfaction as well. Like, I don't think I've been very grateful for every acting job I've ever had, but I don't think I could ever point to any one role and say that's me at my best. Like, that's the best work I've ever done. For me, it's almost like, I mean, in the best possible terms, I'm a hack. Like, I'm literally the dude who takes the job because it's a job. I'm not one of those guys who holds out until, Christopher Nolan decides to personally approach me. Like, it's like, I need to work and
Right.
pay my
Yeah.
rent
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I take jobs, but consequently, I'm not sort of picking and choosing the work I want to do. Yet when you create the work, that's exactly what you're doing. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to do this, and no one can tell me I can't do it because I'm the person creating the work.
I think in 20 years' time, people will look back on like the 90s and early aughts and think, what were you doing? You're kind of subjugated to other people's whims. Everyone will be creating their own work. It's like with Substack and Salman Rushdie spurning publishing deals and selling, doing his own thing.
There are 10-year-olds on YouTube. I just dropped out for a second. Yeah, there's 10-year-olds on YouTube who are multimillionaires. And so, every time you tie yourself in knots because you're trying to pitch a new TV series or something, you're like, am I wasting my time? Like, there's some Russian girl doing a makeup tutorial, and it's like, I mean, that's where the money is.
Yeah. Some people it happens really quickly, and you might get lucky, but otherwise it's just a job, and you work towards it. It's like what you're doing with your podcasts. It's you just kind of gradually build that audience, and it's very satisfying when you have your own audience and no one's telling you
don't
what
have to
do.
rely on a gatekeeper. Yeah, exactly right.
Telling you suck.
No, that's me. That's just my own inner critic who's doing it all the time.
That's right. Yeah, we're enough for all of those people.